My phone vibrated a little after 3 p.m. Her tone was icy and proud, like she had practiced it again and again. I just inherited $18 million from Aunt Denise's estate. Pack your stuff and be gone from the apartment tonight. That was all. No reasons. No emotion. Just the end of a 6-year marriage. Hello everyone, my name is Gavin Reed. I had just wrapped up payroll at the construction company I manage. My hands were still covered in drywall dust when she spoke, as if I were nothing more than an old chair being thrown away. I didn't argue. I didn't ask why. When I reached home, the locks were already replaced. She stood inside the entryway, smiling in a silk robe, and pushed the divorce papers through the mail slot like a dinner receipt. I signed them right there on the front steps. Calm. Exact. Then I smiled and said, "Enjoy your good fortune." She smirked, thinking I was defeated. But as I turned to leave, I glanced at my watch. There were exactly 21 hours left on something she had completely forgotten. And what she didn't know was about to change everything. The second I climbed into my truck, I called one number. "Activate it," I said. The man on the line didn't question me. He only replied, "Understood." You see, a year ago, when Aunt Denise first became sick, my wife pushed me to help her stay close to family. She was obsessed with inheritance rumors, property lists, cash reserves, the entire estate. So I assisted her, arranged meetings, paid for legal advice, even connected her to my own attorney. She never questioned how I knew those people. She just assumed I was fortunate. What she didn't realize was that every time she signed for Denise, every time she shifted money between trusts, every late-night whisper in Denise's ear, it was all recorded, legally and digitally. And now, the entire portfolio transfer included a 21-hour revocation clause, activated only if I filed a breach of good faith within a specific time frame. She thought I was just the quiet, reliable husband. But I was the shadow behind every step she ever took. And in less than a day, she would understand what that truly meant. She was celebrating at a rooftop bar downtown when the first alert buzzed on her phone. A flagged transaction on the Denise Trust. Then another. Then a freeze. I watched from a block away, sipping black coffee in the rain as she paced in her heels, shouting into the same phone I once gave her when she was promoted. She believed she was untouchable. What she didn't know was that Aunt Denise had named me a silent co-executor months before her death. Denise didn't trust her. She trusted me, the one who brought soup when no one else showed up. And when Denise passed, she left more than money. She left instructions, recordings, even a handwritten note that read, "If she betrays you, don't hesitate. Just follow the plan." So I did. The revocation clause wasn't just real, it was unbreakable. And with every minute ticking away, the so-called inheritance slipped further from her grasp. She thought she had thrown me out of her life, but she forgot something important. I helped build hers, and what is built can also be carefully, legally undone. She didn't go home that night. She stayed in a hotel, calling every financial contact she had, desperate to understand how the inheritance vanished. But by then, it was already finished. The clause had been triggered and executed. The $18 million in assets was temporarily moved into a third-party holding account linked to my name through a blind trust Denise had created years earlier. Completely legal, completely clean, and her name was removed from access until a full review. The next morning, she burst into the apartment with 2 lawyers behind her, convinced she could intimidate me. She found the place empty, my clothes gone, my name removed from the lease, and only one envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside was a photo of Denise and me from her last birthday. Her hand on my shoulder, smiling. On the back, my handwriting. "You wanted freedom. Now you have it, with nothing attached." She thought she had kicked me out, but I had never truly lived in her world. I was only borrowing space until she taught me what freedom really costs. By noon, her calls turned frantic. I didn't answer. Instead, I was sitting in a quiet glass office, finalizing the next phase with my attorney. The Denise Trust hadn't just frozen her access. It opened the door for a full audit, and I now had complete authority to approve or deny any withdrawal, including the luxury condo she had just placed a down payment on. The bank reversed it within the hour. She tried to confront me outside the law office. Her voice shook, not with regret, but with anger. "You can't do this. You're nothing. I left you." I looked at her calmly. "No," I said. "You left the version of me you created in your mind." She had married a man she believed she could shape, control, and discard. But the real me had no interest in arguing, only in finishing. She stepped back as if she'd seen a ghost. And for the first time, maybe she had. Because the man standing before her wasn't angry. He was free. And people forget, freedom, when earned, carries a quiet power that can shake the ground. That evening, I visited Denise's old lake house, the one my wife once mocked as too simple, the one she said she would tear down for something modern. I built a fire in the stone fireplace and sat beside a box Denise had left for me. Inside were the original copies of every financial paper my wife had ever handled, along with a notarized letter addressed to the probate court. Denise had prepared for betrayal. She saw it long before I ever did. The letter made one thing unmistakably clear. If her niece ever acted for her own gain or tried to push me out, her inheritance would immediately pass to the alternate beneficiary, a nonprofit Denise and I created together to provide scholarships for families in need. And the best part? I was listed as the sole director of that foundation. The next morning, my wife's attorneys made one final attempt. They accused emotional influence and questioned the mental condition of a woman who was no longer alive. It failed. Denise's estate was sealed tight. By sunset, the judge approved everything. She lost it all, not to me, but to the one thing she never understood, loyalty. The kind that signs its name in ink, not in money. The media quickly picked up the story. Fortune heir loses estate to late philanthropist's silent partner. My name stayed out of the headline, just as I wanted, but hers didn't. She tried to twist the story, claiming I manipulated Denise during her final days, calling me a nobody chasing wealth. But the Scholarship Foundation launched 2 days later. And when the first 3 students received full college funding from Denise's legacy, public opinion shifted fast. She was no longer a grieving figure. She was the woman caught trying to erase someone else's humanity for cash. I watched her fall slowly, not from spite, but from consequence. And when I saw her standing in line at the courthouse, filing for bankruptcy because she couldn't cover her condo, her car, or her PR debts, I didn't feel victory. I felt distance. That was the real success. Because she didn't just lose money, she lost access. To me. To trust. To the story she tried to rewrite in her own name. And this time, she couldn't sign her way out of it. Weeks passed. Quiet ones. I moved into the lake house for good. I planted a garden where Denise once kept her rocking chair. I framed the last photo we took together, her hands wrapped around a tea mug, her eyes steady and calm. The nonprofit grew faster than I imagined. Letters poured in. Parents, students, stories of futures once impossible, now opening. Everything carrying her name, with me quietly working behind the scenes. One evening, I received a letter forwarded from the old apartment. No return address, just my name. Inside was a note written on wrinkled paper. I made a mistake. I see that now. You were never small. I just never learned how to love someone I couldn't control. There was no signature, but I knew her handwriting. I folded the note once and placed it into the fire. Not in anger, in peace. Because she was not my ending. She was only a chapter, and I still had more to write. Not with revenge, but with clarity, with stillness, with purpose. Some endings are loud. Others, like mine, are earned in silence and remembered for everything they never became.